Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. This morning, 199 deported Venezuelans arrive back in their home country as deportation flights have resumed. As they walked off of this jet, you notice that they're all young men. Many are said to be Tren de Aragua, but this flight met no legal challenges as these deportations were not done under the 1798 Aliens Act that the president tried to use a couple weeks ago. These were the culmination of a much slower process that our many activist judges want to use to hamstring this administration from achieving its mandate, which is deporting the millions of people just like them behind me that Joe Biden illegally brought into this country. It is rather interesting that after creating an app that these guys could use to seek asylum with, an app on a phone for an asylum seeker to have a smartphone, and then when Biden and Mayorkas sent jets out to pick up illegals in other countries, that these judges, like Judge Boasberg in this case, were so silent as that all went down. The insanity of flying to go pick up people that clicked asylum on an app and bring them back into the country. That didn't bother anybody, not one legal injunction. But simply the process of deporting the very worst and most dangerous of what came in, the very, very worst, immediately elicited a lower court injunction that's being fought right now. The left fights dirtier. It is plain and simple. And today this all went before a 3-judge appeals court where Obama-appointed Judge Patricia Millett said this.
There were plane loads of people. There were no procedures in place to notify people. Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemy Act than has happened here, where the proclamation required the promulgation of regulations, and they had hearing boards before people were removed. And yet here there's nothing in there about hearing boards, there's no regulations, and nothing was adopted by the agency officials that were administering this. People weren't given notice, they weren't told where they were going.
Hearing boards. So that's the standard here for Judge Millett. And, you know, perhaps in the few cases where Nazis were found in the United States in the late 1930s and early 1940s, maybe she's right. But you know what we didn't have 80 years ago? We didn't have an open border with millions and millions and millions of people pouring into the country unvetted. So maybe there was time to have those hearing boards. Maybe that was more logical at that time. I wonder how different it would be if 10 million Germans all came into the United States right at the beginning of the Second World War. Might have looked a little different. She didn't really talk about that. Here was Tom Homan's response to her words.
Well, that's, first of all, it's ridiculous. It's just another example of a radical judge saying something that's just disgusting, to compare anything to the Nazis. The Holocaust. We follow the law. Alien Enemies Act is clear. A law that was passed by Congress, signed by the president. We're following, unlike the last administration, we're actually following the law. What we did on those planes, we removed terrorists. MS-13 and TDA were our designated terrorist organization. We removed terrorists. And to compare that any way whatsoever with Nazis is disgusting on every level.
There you go. So this appeals court has one Trump-appointed judge on it. Remember, there's 3. One is a Trump appointee. Judge Justin Walker asked today, has a lower court ever attempted such a high-reaching injunction against a president's foreign policy and survived the appeals process? Take a listen.
I'm wondering if you can point me to a district court TRO or injunction that survived appeal, that stopped an ongoing, partially overseas national security operation.
For this court to sanction anything about what the government's doing, or even to say Judge Boasberg shouldn't have time to figure out what the process is so it's not an illusory ability to contest, without a factual record, I think that is probably short-circuiting the way the system should work. I mean, we're really talking about something extraordinary to name a gang rather than a foreign country. This was a wartime measure meant for war.
Meant for war. Alleging the White House is trying to short-circuit the system. He's exactly right. That's exactly what's happening. And it's happening because of what the last administration, Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas, made the decision to treasonously just decimate the sovereignty of this country. So yeah, the system's got to be short-circuited. The usage of the Alien Enemies Act is the bold response to the egregious act taken by the previous White House. They started this. They decimated every normal standard and practice to bring in millions of unvetted, unknown people into a country. It was suicide by immigration. We had to sit here and watch it for 4 years because largely all these judges that care so much about democracy didn't care about any of that. The American people gave Trump the mandate to cut the BS and get them out. That's exactly what this last election was about. It was a lot bigger than any judge. And now we have Obama judges crying about the treatment of the absolute worst of those millions, feeding us lines about how suspected Nazis were given more due process. On Sunday, Tom Homan again here said everyone on those planes, everyone that was sent to CCOT in El Salvador, that prison, had been fully investigated.
Well, sure.
The bottom line is that plane was full of people designated as terrorists, number one. Number two, every Venezuelan migrant on that flight was a TDA member based on numerous criminal investigations, on intelligence reports, and a lot of work by ICE officers.
Well, there you have it right there. Pretty simple response to that. We're going to cut away just for a moment. We have Pete Hegseth in Hawaii tonight. He's speaking to the media right now. Let's take a listen.
Reestablishing the warrior ethos, rebuilding our military, and ultimately reestablishing deterrence is critically important. And so we're out here to talk to our commanders and, more importantly, meet with the troops all across the Indo-Pacific, and then our allies and partners, too, who are going to be a critical part of ensuring the future in this region is free. And so we're glad to be here. It's a beautiful day. Had a full work day on the plane. Now we've got a full work day here as well, and looking forward to it. One question.
Can you share how your information about warplanes?
I just wanted to get to that real quick. Hegseth, the defense secretary, is in Hawaii. He's going to be working with a number of like Indo-Pacific Asian countries, shoring up some security things on that end, and also there for the 80th anniversary of Iwo Jima as well. So that's the defense secretary there live in Hawaii. All right, with Trende Aragua back in the spotlight, was moved back into the monologue here. Earlier this month, mother of 5, Camilla Williams, was found murdered in Cobb County, Georgia, in a very similar fashion to Laken Riley, the victim of a Trende Aragua gang member, who was found choked to death in the woods. Now, her alleged killer, Hector Rivas, entered under Biden and was released into the country, apparently looking for a nice young American woman to murder. These are the stories that they can easily ignore while claiming common sense immigration policies are so dangerous. Here's how they sound.
They're violating the due process rights of the people who are being deported.
I'm concerned about how they are conducting their immigration deportation policies, seizing of American citizens without due process.
We are in a very dark place because if you accept the argument from the Trump administration that there's no due process for people, then what is to stop them from going after citizens and green card holders and political enemies?
Yeah, they don't care about due process or rights or any of that. This is all just an effort to subvert our way of life, to subvert the backbone of this country, manipulating our virtues to destroy us. Then when we actually elect a president with a spine that stands up to all of this, they scream fascist, trying to keep a straight face as they do it. They endorsed, those people you just heard, they endorsed a 4-year government-authorized invasion of our country. They cheered it on. And they're now screaming dictator when a new leader tries to reverse the absolute chaos that we went through. It's very simple. They hate this version of America, where we have a nice, clean, safe, prosperous society. They loathe it, and they will never stop fighting to destroy it. You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt Tonight on Newsmax.